Good evening. Coming up tonight.
Revolutionary War soldiers' remains were found in Camden.
Plus, Riveranks Zoo has announced a completion date for their Aquarium and Reptile Center.
And later, we have an update for you on the men's basketball team.
But first, Nicole Smith is in the studio here with us now. Nicole, what weather can we expect to see this weekend?
We can be expecting to see some cloudy and rainy weather coming up. I'll have the weather forecast for this week and more for you tonight on SGTV Student News at 7.
Live from the Kennedy Greenhouse Studio.
This is Student News at 7.
Good evening, Carolina. I'm Megan Daukshus.
And I'm Elizabeth Martinez. Thanks for joining us tonight.
The remains of 14 Revolutionary War soldiers have recently been found by hobbyists and archaeologists in Camden, where the Battle of Camden occurred. 13 American soldiers and 1 British soldier were recovered in a makeshift gravesite.
The remains were found in very shallow grounds, 5 to 6 inches below ground. Archaeologists are studying the remains and identifying the bodies by objects that were left behind with them, like buttons from their clothing.
Professor Steve Smith of the University of South Carolina said the remains will be reburied back where they were found, on the battlefield with military honors and at a 6-foot depth. A public military burial for the soldiers will be on April 22nd at the battlefield of the Battle of Camden.
A high-powered storm system swept through the Houston area Tuesday night. The National Weather Service issued a tornado emergency for communities east of Houston, warning that, quote, a large, extremely dangerous, and potentially deadly tornado, end quote, was on the ground and quickly on the move.
Many residents in Pasadena, a city southeast of Houston, reported strong wind damage to homes, businesses, and power lines. Despite the widespread damage, there have been no serious reports of injuries. Several vehicles and trailers were flipped over from the storm, and many were left without power after numerous utility poles and power lines were down.
Deer Park Mayor Jerry Mouton Jr. urged anyone who needed refuge to seek outside the city. Many of the suburbs in the Deer Park area are home to petrochemical industry sites. According to a Shell Chemical spokesperson, Curtis Smith, the Shell location in Deer Park was flaring after the storm resulted in a loss of steam.
PowerOutage.us, a website that collects live power outage data from utilities across the United States, reported that roughly 67,000 Texans, mostly in the Houston area, were left without power in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Quote, there is one aspect of me that is amazed that no one got injured. Mayor Mouton said, we will deal with the property damage and recover and rebuild, end quote.
The American Red Cross says it is quickly looking to open shelters in Pasadena and neighboring counties.
The Alec Murdaugh trial is in full swing in Colleton County. Wednesday afternoon concluded day 3 of the infamous murder trial. 54-year-old South Carolina attorney Alec Murdaugh is accused of killing his wife, Maggie, and their youngest son, Paul, on June 7, 2021.
Murdaugh has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possessing a weapon during a violent crime. Before dismissing for lunch on Wednesday afternoon, the state made clear that they intend to pursue all 4 charges against Murdaugh.
A jury of 12 as well as 6 alternatives were selected by lunchtime Wednesday afternoon. Initial arguments from both the prosecution and defense were heard around 3 p.m.
The case has gained national attention in recent months, and all eyes will be on prosecutor Creighton Walters as he intends to prove that Murdaugh committed the double murder. Murdaugh faces 30 years to life in prison if convicted.
The campus organization fair took place today, featuring over 80 unique campus orgs. Hosting everything from business frats to the sailing club, there was something for everyone to involve themselves in.
The organization fair aims to promote student inclusivity and involvement on campus. I attended this early this afternoon. What about you?
I did too. I wanted to go say hi to my friends at SGTV and my friends at some other orgs, and I'm actually planning on joining a new one, so I'm super excited to involve myself in that.
How fun.
Coming up after the break, the latest in Gamecock sports. Stay close.
SGTV News 4 sports reporter Violet Raftery has the scoop. What have you got for us, Violet?
Gamecock men's basketball took on the Florida Gators last night, and the Gators outscored the Gamecocks 81-60. And now with a 1-6 record in conference play and averaging 63.6 points per game, Last night's contest seemed to be fairly characteristic of Carolina's season thus far. South Carolina was within 10 points of the lead at the end of the first half, but the Gamecocks fell to about 20 points behind the Gators by the middle of the second. Head coach Lamont Paris addressed his team's performance after the game.
I mentioned to the guys again, I said this in the last play, we're not a finished product, obviously. There's a lot of growth potential and room for growth, and so it's hard to see that. It's hard to come back and roll your sleeves up tomorrow when you're not getting the successes that you hoped for, anticipated, just altogether expected that you would have.
And now, despite the Gamecock loss, there are still some indicators of great talent on the roster. Freshman forward Gigi Jackson led the team in scoring with 20 points. And now that coupled with his 10 rebounds, and Jackson put up his first double-double in conference play. The Gamecocks will head to Georgia this Saturday for a 6 p.m. tip-off against the Bulldogs. The game will be broadcast on the SEC network for the fans watching from home. And now on another court, 2 Gamecock tennis players recently earned SEC Player of the Week honors. Senior Ayanna Alkai of the women's team and junior Connor Thompson of the men's were announced to have won the recognition yesterday. And it was the first time receiving the honor for both Alkai and Thompson. The men's team will host the University of Pennsylvania this Saturday for the first day of the ITA kickoff weekend. And the women will take on Northwestern University at a neutral site in Charlottesville, Virginia at 6 p.m. tomorrow. For News 4 Sports, I'm Violet Raftery.
Thanks, Violet. Coming up after the break, News 4 entertainment reporter Brianna Rao will lay down the talk to the town. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Joining me now is entertainment reporter Brianna Rao to fill us in on what's happening in Columbia this weekend. What do you have for us, Brianna?
Earlier today, the Riveranks Zoo announced its official date for the opening of the new Aquarium and Reptile Conservation Center, following 2 years of renovations in which the center had been closed to the public.
Reinventations at the Riverbank Zoo will wrap up on March 2nd, 2023. But what I can tell you is that the Aquarium and Reptile Conservation Center will include new conservation clause that will allow visitors to see the work that was previously only available behind the scenes tours.
This includes coral labs, terrestrial habitats, and a new desert biome that will feature reptiles like tortoises, rattlesnakes, Gila monsters, thick-billed parrots, and burrowing owls.
According to Susan Boyd, one of the donors of the Aquarium and Reptile Conservation Center, the goal of the experience is to, quote, show the impact of conservation efforts and encourage simple actions to protect our ecosystems and wildlife, end quote.
The center will be open during regular zoo hours, and it is included with general admission tickets and member passes. This is just one of those steps where Gen Z and everyone has been advocate about climate change and just protecting our wildlife, and we're seeing that right here in Columbia. That's great progress.
And I'm so excited to go experience that and see what they're doing. I'll be there. Opening day, you'll see me there.
I'll come with you.
It's a plan.
The Oscars equivalent for exceptional talent in the culinary art, hospitality, and food systems, known in the foodie community as the James Beard Foundation, released its 2023 restaurant and chef semi-finalists yesterday, with 3 Columbia establishments among those nominated.
This is the first time in South Carolina history that a local chef or restaurant has been named as a James Beard Award semi-finalist.
Bill Ellen, the president and CEO of Experience Columbia, South Carolina, said, quote, "Having not one, but 3 James Beard semifinalists is a testimony to our region's culinary talent. We have known that this group deserves this prestigious recognition and could not be more prouder or excited for them," end quote.
Among those nominated are Jessica Shilato for the Best Chef in the Southeast, Lola Drake Wine Parlor for Outstanding Hospitality Nationwide, and Apron Hoskins, Sarah Simmons, Nicole Story, Ellie Yigo, and the City Grit Hospitality Group, which includes in Columbia fan favorites Small Sugar, City Grit, and 2 Focalaire Pizzeria for Outstanding Restaurateur Nationwide.
Lulu Drake's wine parlor owner, Tim Gardner, said, quote, "It's about time. There's been such interesting, phenomenal work being done over the last few years to bring outstanding experiences to people here, and we often get skipped over for touristy towns," end quote.
Finalist nominees will be announced on March 29th and celebrated on June 5th at the Lyric Opera in Chicago.
This is another win for Columbia. For everyone that is just wanting to get back involved in the community, this is just like another step to get more tourists and really highlight all that Columbia has to offer.
And the food in Columbia is great. And to win this many awards, look at us go. We got
First time in South Carolina history.
good for us.
And that's all your entertainment news for tonight. Coming up after the break, Nicole Smith will let you know if this cold weather sticks around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nicole Smith, and here's your look at tonight's forecast. Tonight's temperatures are at 32 degrees, with that winds traveling 14 miles per hour heading west, and that humidity being 63%, with that moon as a waxing crescent. Now let's take a look at how South Carolina is looking as a whole. We have that upper region in the 51 degrees, and as we move down to that mid and lower regions, we get to the mid to low 50s, with those highest being in Hilton Head, Charleston, and Columbia hitting 57 degrees. Now let's talk about that weekly forecast. As you can see, it's going to be the high 50s to those mid 60s throughout the week, and at night it's going to get a bit chilly, with Friday hitting 31 degrees and moving up to that warmth of 58 here on Tuesday, and it will go back down to 46 here on Wednesday. Now, as you can see, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, it will rain and shower, but we will get a little bit of a break here on Tuesday. That's all I have for tonight. After the break, we'll have tonight's edition of Carolina K9s. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
And finally, tonight's Carolina K9 features Opie.
Submitted by our very own SGTV producer, CJ Rosenberger, Opie is a 3-year-old Louisiana Catahoula. He is a high-energy buddy that loves to run and play with his toys. Opie likes to show all of his affection by cuddling and sitting on top of you as much as possible. I love a cuddly puppy. If he wants to sit on my lap, I'll take it.
Me too. Where do I sign up to spend time with Opie? That wraps up tonight's edition of Student News at 7.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at SGTV at USC.
To keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtvonline.com. For SGTV News 4, I'm Elizabeth Martinez.
And I'm Megan Daukshus. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great night, Carolina, and forever to thee.